Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, welcome out to this one and only show. It's called the Remix Morning Show right here on Black Power Media. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. Let me introduce you to your host. We have no other than Kamal K. Franklin. We got Dr. Jared Ball and Kalanji Jama Chunga.
Black Power.
And no other. Can I bring in one other person? Just one?
Are we? Oh, right. Yeah.
Timothy. What up?
Good.
Yo. What's up, everybody?
What's up, good people? Welcome to this boom bap breakfast.
Hey, be lacking sound effects today.
I know.
I'm on location today. You know,
Doctor's on the road. I was trying to beatbox it up a little bit. You know what I mean?
You did a terrible job.
Yeah, you definitely did.
Sound like the poor fat boy.
Fat boy that lost weight. Sorry. Anyway,
he gained it back and lost it again.
Welcome to the Remix Morning Show.
See what I'm saying? This is just
anemic fat boy.
Fat boy with glasses.
That's why I'm leaving early today.
Icons.
He was in that group in between the skinny boys and the fat boy. In between boys.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Let me go,
Jared's sitting there looking like Jared's blushing.
I know.
I always wanted to be a fat
boy.
Heavy B. Anyway, welcome to the
Remix. That was it.
What was it, Heavy B? I'm with you, brother. I did it for you.
But can we acknowledge all the body positivity in that era of hip hop? Fat Boys was free to be fat boys, Heavy D, overweight lover. You know what I'm saying? We embrace the fluffiness.
Okay.
It's not fat rappers today. It's fat.
Rick Ross.
Big Ross. Yeah. That's it, right?
Fat Joe.
That's what you know has been taken over by Hollywood. Oh, who?
Fat
Joe.
Joe.
Don Cartagena.
I said today.
DJ Khaled.
Damn. Come on. Jesus,
Where's the last Fat Boy? Where's the last Fat Joe album you listened to?
Actually, if you listen to Fat Joe's visit to Math Hoffa's platform, if you watch that, you will see Fat Joe tell you, Kamal, that he has been more than relevant and more than rich for longer than anyone can imagine. He has been involved in every major moment in hip hop history.
How we define
and he continues to produce.
Okay. Good for Joe.
That's great.
The one thing I can say is he is definitely an example of climbing up in hip hop, because his first album, it was a dope underground crusty type joint, and I don't think anyone saw him being where he is today. So shout out to Big Pun, because I'm sure Big Pun definitely balanced the scales, you know what I mean, and helped him to
pun intended.
Pun intended. Puns and pun intended.
Ladies and gentlemen,
just layered up.
Why am I here? But anyway, yeah. So,
yeah.
But definitely, I think
I am actually thinking exactly. Andy got it exactly right because of that weird lineup, but he had it corrected. Somebody checked him, because when he was on Math Hoffa's platform, he looked more normal. And I'm not entirely sure that it wasn't something medical going on with my guy.
You talking about that beard,
that crazy shape up he had it was just disturbing for me to look at.
It was some spray on, man. It's like, you know,
is that what that was?
I mean, look, somebody was like, "Yo, look, man, you should sponsor this joint. You know what I mean? We're gonna get you a deal. You have your Fat Joe beard." It didn't work out.
You know, I'm only in these tree line streets, so I don't know what's hot in
it's
the
the same thing we talked about last week with it's his version of cosmetic surgery in some way, right?
Okay.
His version of thinking that if his hair looks darker than what it is at his advanced age, that somehow that makes him more relevant. So he can talk about how he's still relevant in the game, even if he's making videos like he did 30 years ago on a yacht with Puffy. So I was like, I don't know why he even do that.
I think
they also had that in. Yeah, go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think we should get Fat Joe up here and talk about his beard. Ask him directly. Yo,
we should. And I would want it. I would, in all seriousness, I would want to have an extended conversation with him about Latinos and the N-word that they started on Hoffa's platform. I would like to see that discussed a little bit more. And yeah, anyway, so that would be yeah. Go ahead.
Speaking of fat rappers, why'd you chase Fat Killer Mike off the area?
Oh, Killer Mike. Yeah. I didn't chase anybody anywhere. I just showed up. I was just in the chat.
Kim.
What happened?
Kim.
What happened?
Listen,
As I faithfully watch every Black Power Media show, I was watching Kalanji's show.
We know.
Always on there. And Michael, what's his last name?
Render.
That's
not partaking in this. Go ahead.
Michael Render pops on the chat and starts, complimenting the guests. And then Jared jumps in and just starts going at him and shit like that.
No, I didn't.
I didn't know he was in the chat. I didn't know Jared was in the chat. So
hold on. Let Brooklyn tell the story. Let Brooklyn finish telling the story because it's better when New York tells it.
Brooklyn, tell the story, Brooklyn.
Killer Mike. Did not respond. He was so, he was like, this is beneath me to respond to this. And I think he left. He was chased off because Petty Freddy just was in on him. He was like, you fat bastard, you know.
No.
That's what it felt like.
This is what goes wrong when Brooklyn tells the story, right? When you
keeping it real go wrong. Hey, Kim, I can't even.
Ain't that true, Kalanji?
What I did was I actually stayed out the chat. I got a text saying that whatever. Then after the show or during the show, because I stopped checking the text, I got about 4 or 5 texts like, yo, what's up with your man, Dr. Jared Ball? All kinds of folks from different places. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Jared ain't on the show. You know what I'm saying? So then I went back through the joint and I'm like, Petticoat J strikes again.
Here we go.
All I said, I didn't
even know he was there.
All I remember saying is what's up, everybody? Because there were 2 names I saw pop up in the chat. His was one. And I do feel a kind of way. Like I do feel affiliated. We are a collective. This is our platform. Indeed. And I'm like, so I just what's up, everybody? The only thing I do remember saying is something like Raouf is not Herschel Walker. So like there was no, that was the extent, like there was no you fat.
Oh, you said Raouf is not Herschel Walker?
Yeah, I was just pointing out because Killer Mike had said something like, it's great to see Mahmoud Abdul Raouf. He was praising the guest as he should have, and people should go watch the interview if they haven't seen it. And my only point was, and really, if I had really wanted to go in on him, I would have been more specific to say, but you won't interview Raouf, but you'll sit down with Herschel Walker for an extended conversation of nonsense. So I was only pointing out in the chat, I was just saying Raouf is not Herschel Walker. Like these are not the same. And then the other one is, as I said in the chat, this, too much promo, not enough OMO. People show up in the chat in our collective spaces who have talked rank shit about your man. So I just want to let them know I'm here, right here. Promo.
So
and I didn't see anything.
When you're saying promo, who are you referring to, sir? Because I'm the crowd, the audience is confused.
Omar Wale, who turned me into an I mean, it's anyway. He the memes were funny. I even showed my children.
Oh, he was in the chat too.
He was in the chat.
Oh, I didn't know
because he likes Kalanji.
Hey, listen, guys.
They like each other. That's his man. Oh, that's his man.
Listen. Hey, Kim.
Kalanji, what's up? What's up?
You ain't cursing out Kalanji?
I can't hate it because I'm beautiful, man, because people love me. You know what I'm saying? I come to Black Power Media. You know what I mean? And it's thank you to all my good folks out there who support the Riot Starter, because these gentlemen over here.
I got your back. I defriended him and everything. Kalanji, you defriend him yet? You defriend him yet?
No. So listen. My 2 colleagues right here, the 2% Black Squad, they always wilding on everybody. They always on everybody. You know what I'm saying? And then when I hit the streets, everybody like, yo, what's up with your man? And I'm like, yo, I gotta do damage control. So it's bad when the Riot Starter gotta do damage control. You know you fucking up.
That is funny.
That's
funny.
But anyway, I don't know, Kim.
And Jared, Kamau and Jared, y'all out here making it hard for Kalanji out here, man.
They made it so hard. They made it so hard that Kim and I are getting along these days.
Right.
You know it's It's out of hand. It's out of control.
Best
Anyway,
friend
shout out to the
for life.
remixers out
Best
there, man.
friends
We
for life.
appreciate y'all.
So real quick, I'm not saying Herschel Walker is as an academic. I'm saying Herschel Walker in his own show in his hosting role on Revolt TV, on Puffy's Revolt TV, has a long sit down with Herschel Walker, but he'll come here. That is, Killer Mike will come here and praise Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, but not have him on your platform. So it's like
Is he
that's
gonna have
because they're
Kalani
very
on his
different
platform?
athletes. I'm sorry.
He's going to have you on the platform, Killer Mike?
Well, I've been on CNN with him, a few other things, whatever. You know,
That's not what I asked you.
I'm busy, man. Hey, listen, let me tell you something. We have a whole. We have.
Tell him better have you on the platform.
Brother, listen.
Are you
He
going on?
can't do
Revolt
that,
TV?
Kamal. And I'm not even mad at him for that.
Listen,
I wouldn't even be mad at him
I'm
for
going to say
that.
this right here. This is what I'm going to say. Right?
It's in the drum roll.
And I'm going to keep it 100. Some of these guys, you know, including Mike, they supported our organization's movement, so on and so forth. I respect that, right? I don't get along with everyone politically. I don't get along with you guys politically. Not all the time. You know what I'm saying? I'm just keeping it 100. My job, I'm an organizer, and I'm trying to figure out how the fuck we gonna win. You know what I'm saying? Now, Herschel Walker and all that shit, I don't fuck with that. And folks are clear about my particular politic. You know what I mean? So my thing is, as long as when you come to my house, you take your damn shoes off at the door, whatever you do at your house, that's what you do at your house. You know what I'm saying? And that's just that. So that's just my position. You know what I'm saying? So
is he gonna have you on this show? I think that was the question I asked.
He can't do that, but he
He
can.
can't do that. Why can't he have Kalani on the show?
I mean, but talk
It's a
about the underlying politic behind that, right? Kalanji is cool with Killer Mike, etc. They've worked and collaborated, but we know that Kalanji is not going on Revolt TV with Killer Mike for reasons. If that's Killer Mike's show and he wanted him on there, he should be able to have him on there. But we know that that's not the case.
Killer Mike actually go on that show. You better go on that goddamn show.
But listen, but on the real, this platform has been invited on Revolt TV last year or earlier this year.
What happened?
Well, it was a Renegade Culture thing, but we ain't gonna talk about that right now.
Oh,
but
shit.
Yes, we were invited to participate on Revolt TV as a platform. Jared, Kamal, do we remember this?
Uh-oh. You guys are about to see some behind the scenes shit come out.
I'll be honest with you. I have a vague memory, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't. That's
I don't remember like a date for the invite. I would have showed for that. No, like I wouldn't have showed. I wouldn't have showed for that.
At this particular moment,
I would, because I wasn't going to be there. It was because it was for Renegade Culture. So I just remember advocating. I was like, do it, right? That would have. I don't know. I don't remember.
And for the record, because
what was the reason that Renegade Culture did not make that appearance? Can you guys share that, or if y'all don't want to share that, that's fine. But I was just curious.
Well, due to legal reasons. At this particular point, Renegade Culture is not making any appearances. But shit. I do want to say, Killer Mike was on Renegade Culture on one of our earlier episodes. In fact, he was probably one of the first five. Yeah, first 5 or 7.
It was like it was like we agreed. I remember one time he said something pro-American, and me and you at the same time was like, whoa. But we gave him the space to say what he, as a guest, like the, challenged here and there, but he got his space or whatever. But he was a good guest or whatever.
Yeah,
he's always an interesting dude, even if his politics are skewed.
Agreed. Yeah. I would agree with that. He's very interesting, but yes, he's a big black capitalist, and I'm like, sir, we are not going to barbershop our way to freedom. I'm so sorry. I appreciate it, I respect it, but
Again, shout out to the remixers out there. I know y'all like, what the hell is going on Black Power Media? We in the first 15 minutes right now. So imagine what's happening in the next hour and 45 minutes.
Let's go.
Anyway, it's time for the
Speaking of Renegade Culture.
Yes. Huh? No, I was going to say time for the rep.
I thought you was going to say, speaking of black capitalists.
Anyway.
Good well,
that would have been
aspiring capitalists, not
capitalists. Want to be black capitalists.
Yeah, because I ain't getting no money, so I'm what am I capitalizing over?
Aspiring Kaepernick, not capitalist. But anyway.
We're gonna take a quick break and come right back to you right here on the Remix Show, y'all. God, what is this?
We do this Remix Morning Show, baby. Back again.
Man, y'all silly.
We got technical
Technicals.
problems over here. What's going on?
Technicals.
Oh my goodness! Somebody, there we go. Oh, now it wants to come on. I tell you. But anyway, welcome out. I'm on location right now, so we might have a little bit of technical difficulties, but bear with me, please. Bear with me. Anyway, welcome out once again to the Remix Morning Show. Go by the name of the Air Doctor, and you are tuned into the Boom Back Breakfast Show, the greatest show, morning show in the galaxy. All right, so hit that like button, subscribe button if you haven't already, and notification bell so you can know all the dope stuff that's coming around your way. All right, patreon.com is waiting for you also, so go ahead over there and drop some change in the bucket, become a member, all that stuff. Go cop some merch. All right, we get all that out the way. First commercial. All right, cool. All right, so bam. Here's what we're doing today. We're gonna give an artist spotlight to a brother you might have heard of back in the day. We're gonna keep it hip hop today. So I'm gonna talk about no other than Dana Dane. That's right, Dana Dane, also known as Dana McClissy. That's right. Born in 1965, he's known as Dana Dane. He's a rapper who performed with some funny lyrics, and he is known for his style, his wares and stuff like that. All right, so he was pretty much born in Walt Whitman housing projects in Fort Greene, Brooklyn. Big up to Brooklyn. All right. So the funny thing is he was down with the Kango crew. Now you know that's with Slick Rick in them. And you know the funny thing is he always kind of sound like Slick Rick. I understand you down in the same crew, everything, but having a British accent and you from Brooklyn, I never got that. But anyway, he was actually in the Teenage Lover video, and he was also in Brown Sugar, as you could have seen that also. He had two pretty big hits, which was Nightmares, play that every time it's Halloween, and then he had Cinderella Dana Dane, and my favorite was Delancey Street, and Dana Dane with fame. Oh, y'all don't know, man. I'm gonna take y'all there. But yeah, pretty much that was Dana Dane. He had 3 albums: Dana Dane with Fame, Dana Dane Forever, and Rolling with Dana Dane. So if you ain't heard Dana Dane, go check him out. That's just my little showing some love for all these artists. And that is Dana Dane. So let's get back to our morning crew, because you know how we do. All right. Yeah. Look at that help on the production there.
Yeah, you need
Oh, thank you.
I like it though. I like it when it's raggedy. I like it when it's
You gonna love it today. Shout out to May, who was definitely missed. Shout out to the Ear Doctor, who's on location at some location.
Shout out to Erica. We miss her too.
Yes, definitely Erica. Yes, bring a glitch back. I just saw that.
Any thoughts on Dana?
There's something. It's a glitch on my end. I don't know what happens.
I thought you did that on purpose. I thought because as soon as I said something, you was like, "Look at me," and it jacked up.
Glitches. I have no idea what it is or what. I don't know.
You know what help us out at this moment? Super chats. Run that. I'm on that now. I'm on that every day. I see. Every day. Every day. You know what I'm saying?
And people who see this later can super thank.
Why did we?
Button.
Why do we what?
Why do we get our audio fixed?
Hey,
why can't we?
Why didn't we consider Dana Dane corny? Why didn't we?
Who consider Dana Dane corny?
Yeah, who is we?
Why didn't we consider Dana Dane corny for?
I think he's asking why didn't.
I'm saying for sounding like Slick Rick when he was.
I don't think he sounded
because
I don't think he sounded like Slick Rick.
Ooh, Kalanji, that's a controversial take.
Yeah, I mean the thing is. We got to look at the history.
He
they were in
from
high
England.
school together, right? But I don't think Slick Rick sounded British either. I mean, did he?
To me,
Okay, well maybe
One
I
of
don't-
those
twang.
days, not
Yeah,
much
it's a
to do.
twang.
When I sat outside with my old school crew, I went out the door to get the second pizza. Bumped into a girl. Her name was Mona. What? Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa.
I
May
thought-
have named her.
All right.
okay.
I thought they both sounded
Haters.
alike,
Haters.
but I definitely did not think Slick Rick was from anywhere but New York. I just thought his voice
Right.
was
Really?
funny. And
Right.
then I thought Dana Dane had this weird accent, but sounded oddly and musically a lot like Slick Rick. And then I learned that they were, kind of crewed up and
Right.
So I
Going
was
back
like,
to high
okay,
school.
That makes sense. Going back to high
Right.
school, right? So
And I think Dana was dope as well. And I think that if he had the gimmicks that Slick Rick had, then he could have been more of a Slick Rick type dude. Because
Gimmicks. What do you mean? What gimmicks did Slick Rick have,
the
Kalani?
gold, the stuff that Ear Doctor said made him Mansa Musa, him and Mr. T. The truck jewelry, the eye patch, the Kango, you know what I'm saying? That kind of brought it to another level. Of course, Dane wore Kangos and everything as well. He dressed fly, but he wasn't with the truck jewelry.
I
You
just
know
think
what I'm saying?
was only room for one funny sounding rapper who sounded slightly British at the time. Hip hop wasn't big enough for like 2 or 3 of them to last for very long.
Oh,
But
boy.
Dana was cool.
He was
You know what I
dope.
mean? I nobody thought he wasn't cool.
Shout out
I
to
mean,
Moni
Slick,
Love.
Slick just
also
seemed like
British
he was the
rapper.
master.
Shout out to
of
Anita the
that
Beast.
genre.
Anita the
I'm
Beast
sorry,
caught a
man.
bad one though during them times. Anita the Beast. You know what I'm saying? Her. What was the one on EPMD? The one
Jane.
yeah,
Jane, watch that
Hiccup.
crazy thing.
like a
oh
new baker.
wow.
But yo, that's
Man,
my
wow.
break for the day. I catch y'all next time.
Thank you, Ear Doctor.
Right on. Thank you
Ladies
very
and
much,
gentlemen.
Ear Doctor.
Cinderella, Dana Dane.
Thanks for joining us, where you can learn about backwards hip hop with these guys. I don't know what they talking about. Let's try to see Dana Dane fight Slick Rick. Woo! Cloud have mercy. Somebody slap the map.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm gonna have to break format.
Okay.
So you might have to slap the Mac again. So the eye patch is for real?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
I mean,
never
no,
understood
and I wasn't. And let me fix that. You know, that wasn't a gimmick, but it was definitely a cool fashion statement as well. He made
thought it was a
an
gimmick.
eye patch. He made an eye patch fly, and you recognize Slick Rick primarily because of the eye patch and the
Does anybody know the background to
the
that?
gold.
What was the
I don't know if
I thought it was real. I think I thought it was a gimmick too. I don't think what is
Tim?
it? Yeah, what is it?
I am pretty certain that Rick wears that eye patch for a reason, for a medical
we've seen him with glasses on before. Well, I mean, I don't know if you all remember, but you know, there was nothing I saw that was visibly, you know what I'm saying?
All right.
But you know,
my
we
bad.
don't know.
Slap the Mac again. Slap the map again. I'm sorry, my bad. This is act like I never did that.
How about we just
keep
proceed?
glitching, Jared.
'cause
That'll solve it.
Let's just. The norm is to just act like what you've said and done didn't happen. So let's just
it's
proceed.
It's usually what we do.
Yeah.
But shout out to Slick Rick for surviving that legal trouble, because you know he was able to get deported and come back, which is in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
I
You
thought
know,
he was talking about the
for
murder trial. Didn't he have the murder trial?
yeah, he shot his
No.
cousin or whatever. His cousin tried to rob him. So
Allegedly.
No, he's convicted
Oh my gosh.
and serve,
I mean-
serve time. I mean, but we could still say allegedly yes, but
listen,
was convicted.
Rick shot him. Rick was deported, and Rick is back here. So something happened. He just shoot him in New York, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna shoot my cousin, bomb.
Rick, come on and explain that to us. We want to know about the eye patch,
No doubt.
the fake British accent, and why you shot your cousin.
Call him that fake
We
British.
would love to have Slick Rick on the platform. That would
I
be
know.
Yo, listen, man. My mindset right now, we can get any goddamn body. That's my thing. I don't care. How about that?
do
Now,
it.
You believe you can achieve.
And let's be
That's it.
clear, in this rap world, Slick Rick's got a lot of sons out here. Okay, Rick Rakim, BDK, Big Daddy Kane birthed a lot of boys in the 80s. They birthed a lot
They're
of.
doing a tour right now. They were in Atlanta the other day.
Oh,
Slick
wow.
Rick, Kane, KRS, and Rakim. Slick Rick,
Y'all
Kane,
wasn't there?
KRS, Rakim.
Where was you, Kalanji? Did you go?
Nah, I'm busy. I'm working on some stuff. So.
Oh, my bad.
They already getting their money. I gotta get mine.
So Kane and Rakim are on tour together.
Yeah,
And-
Kane,
and-
Rakim,
and-
Slick Rick, and KRS.
See, this is
And
the shit
so-
I'm talking about. Where are these
That's like
concert
yacht rock
promoters?
for us.
Y'all need to come on here. Y'all need to drop Black Power Media some bucks because this is your audience right here, man. I mean, I know we're not out here trying to, shill for corporate money or any sort of, advertising dollars, but let's be fucking serious. Like the old hip hop heads is right here. The real hip hop is on BPM. And if there's some sort of tour of these, classic rappers, y'all need to be promoting this right here. Money, run us the money and promote these concert tours right here.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right.
Please
Yeah,
also
it's
send me any. I'd also like someone to send me a link that offers a good summary, sound, substantive summary of the beef between Rakim and Big Daddy Kane, which I only learned existed a couple years ago. So I didn't realize that all those years back in the day, a lot of their tracks were actually diss tracks towards each other. Apparently,
I thought it was a trifecta of disses, wasn't it? Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, and LL all kind of circular.
I'm not even I'm not even aware of that one. See,
Well,
then
LL was busy
I
beefing
need a
with
link for
everybody.
that too.
Yeah, but LL made his career off beef, so that was kind of
I did
from-
just watch the 4-3-2-1 joint again, and his verse, the verse against Cannabis. I honestly, I have to admit, sometimes I sleep on LL. I gotta admit that when
Yeah,
he
I'm not
when he
really
needs to
LL.
turn it up, that verse. Anyway,
But
Cannabis.
see, what
did
I
have to
didn't
come
like
back,
about
yeah.
that specifically is that LL went back and rewrote that
You're
verse
right.
after
That was
Cannabis wrote the
shady.
verse. Now that was some sucker shit, LL.
That was
to be
shady.
perfectly honest, that was sucker
LL
shit.
still a sucker. We cannot
That
we
was
can't
shady.
we can't negate his role in hip hop and his longevity, but I'm still stuck on the joint he did with
country
with the
joint?
white boy.
Mhm.
Yeah. Brad
Yeah,
Paisley.
and I'm honestly still mad. I'm not gonna forget. He owes me $13.99 for
All
14
world.
shots to the
Oh.
dome. I spent $13.99 for the CD of
Oh,
14
you
shots to
spent
the
money
dome,
on that?
and there's not one. That's what I'm saying. I remember
Listen,
vividly.
man. I remember being
there's
on-
not one quality verse, not even a
Yeah.
track, not much as a verse. I mean, there's nothing of
I was
quality
on
that joint.
125 and someone tried to give me a copy and I was like, oh, I'm straight, and walked by. I mean, come on. man.
What
You
did Jada
paid for
Kiss
that?
say? Now I bought your CD. Now I break weed up on it.
You
It's a
see
weed
the
plate,
weed
baby.
plate. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I cleaned a lot of
Like,
grease off the stove with a lot of people's CDs back in the day. Don't get it twisted. It was
actually, while you
definitely
playing.
grease removal.
Since I've already
Trying to
told
tell
a
you.
lot of my drugstore, I did literally snort lines off of that CD cover.
The LL CD cover.
Yeah, back in the day, I intentionally remember chopping it up to say "fuck your CD."
Hey,
is what it's
Jared.
good for.
Jared, you are the epitome of the
Mhm.
commercial. This is your brain on drugs because you're a professor at at Morgan State, and this is
All I
it's
can
somebody's
say is
child.
you can recover. You can
recover.
overcome it.
Jared.
You can't
Jared.
persist in it. Like there's no
Right.
longevity in that.
Okay.
No.
But
So now
that is
they got to
one-
rewrite
that
the
is one
song.
substance. There's no longevity in that. So,
But
but
see,
for that,
I do take credit.
I'm
for this.
talking
Look at
30
this.
years ago now.
Great.
Whenever that album came out, however long ago
Okay,
it is.
all right.
When the
I can
coke was
nice with it.
good. Back now, don't do the
It was
coke
pure
these days, guys. They got the coke cut with
Yeah.
fentanyl. If you got
Yeah,
recreational
there was
cocaine
no-
habits, do not do that.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't know what
please,
the hell neither one of them talking
no,
about.
no jokes aside. Like all jokes aside, that is a good
Yeah.
reminder.
Oh, no,
Okay,
no, no.
so-
The cocaine these days, it will kill you. Like the 30 years ago cocaine, I'm sure that cocaine was mwah, primo. But this shit out here today, do not fuck around with it because it's only
It's a hell of a drug.
the
Rick wasn't lying
fentanyl-
to you, boy.
Oh,
For the
man.
record, ladies and gentlemen, I've never done cocaine, so I don't know what the hell
Look,
is
I'm
good
not-
and primo
Really?
and all that type of shit.
Good.
What
Good for
in the
you.
more the words of Kendrick Lamar? I don't smoke coke, motherfucker. I sell it. Nah, I never. Lynn
Hey,
Bias.
somebody had to buy it. Somebody
Lynn-
had to buy it.
Lynn
You're
Bias for
welcome,
me.
motherfucker.
You're welcome.
Lynn Bias for me was
So, y'all are crazy.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how we got here today.
Now see, look at that, Kalonji. Len Bias was a cautionary tale for you. Jared
He
said,
definitely was.
run me that shit. Jared
He
said,
said-
give me that
he
Len
said-
Bias shit.
No, I'm saying I was in a room with. No, I'm saying I ended up.
You in the room with
I
Len
won't go
Bias?
into the details because it's not, but I
Hope
ended up
not.
in a room with somebody very close to that situation of how the process by which the path that those drugs took to get to Lynn. I was in a room with
Yeah.
this dude, and he said after Biases died, his product went through the roof. Yesterday's
Wow.
price wasn't today's price. People were like, the attitude among users was, he's just soft. He was an athlete who went where he didn't know where he was going. Me,
Wow.
that was an ad. It was like a positive ad. It killed him. It killed a draft pick. She, somebody get me, dial it up. You know what I mean?
Someone say in the chat, y'all welcome.
It's crazy.
Y'all welcome.
So your boy, that was in the room with him, right?
Mhm.
Where is he now? Let me just ask that.
No,
question. I
he
feel
wasn't.
like
I was in the room with this dude
He's a
who
professor
was
at,
connected to the
He's a
people
professor as well.
that were in with Bias. They were closely connected to
did you hear Kamal
Bias'
said-
associates. No, I didn't hear.
Kamal
My
said,
bad. What'd he
Kamal
say?
said he's the head of the communication department at Morgan State right now.
And good for
Anyway.
him if he is. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Just for the record, I am in Black Studies in the College of Liberal Arts. I am no longer
Ooh,
in
it'll tell
global
you.
journalism and communication at Morgan State
Okay.
University.
Okay,
But-
okay,
But yeah, but yes.
okay. So no.
Anyway,
Thank you all for the cautionary tales. Matter of fact, we might have to add that to the Remix Morning Show. Cautionary tales. That may have to be a segment.
but let's just
You know
bring
what I'm
it back. The bottom line is LL. I want my $13.99 plus tax.
there we go.
After all that, we circle back on them.
Circle
back.
moment. Bring it
Yeah,
back.
Bring it
yeah.
back.
So, but at least I know that when you bought that CD, you was high as hell because everybody knew not to buy that shit. I'm like, man, come on, man. Like,
I like
why?
that version. Let's go with that version.
No
That's
doubt.
the cautionary tale. See what drugs will get you in the LLCD.
Exactly.
LCD.
Anyway, if you haven't listened, I'm gonna run LL's sound scan up today, and I'm gonna say if you have not listened to the joint he did with Brad Paisley, I'm still mad
Oh,
about
man.
that.
Everybody
sorry.
heard
You're right
that.
about that.
Accidental
That was
racist.
horrible.
LL.
I mean,
what the
you-
fuck?
I mean, you all have to. I mean, I think that might have been the first time I actually went live, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? Only for that, up until we started doing our thing. But I had to because that shit was like ridiculous. Yes, and I wish y'all stopped putting that big head up on the damn screen, man.
LL
that-
Cool
that
J.
part.
Obi said we got to re-slap the map.
Yes, yes. Anyway, let's get started with the news. Thank you all for joining us through our craziness. But anyway,
Who wants to
what's
get it
happening
started
today?
this morning?
Whew.
It's just tiny news coming out of the Biden administration. So, Biden's economic agenda, the Build Back Better, has been stalled primarily because of opposition from two alleged Democratic senators, Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona and Joe Manchin of West Virginia. But it seems as though Joe Biden now is willing to negotiate because Biden, according to Joseph Zabalos Roig, who is a reporter, got the scoop that says the 5% surtax on individuals earning above $10 million has been, quote, knocked out of the reconciliation bill per source. The tax proposal would have raised over $200 billion from the richest sliver of American households. And this is just part and parcel to how the Biden administration and Joe Biden and the Democratic caucus have been conceding huge portions of their agenda, either to the right or to these so-called centrist Democrats. If you guys remember, the George Floyd Justice and Policing bill went to the Senate to die. And one of the sticking points that they had over that bill literally going nowhere was qualified immunity. Republicans making it so that, police did not automatically have qualified immunity when they either murdered people or committed acts of police violence or brutality. Joe Biden was like, no, they can keep that qualified immunity. That's why the George Floyd Justice and Policing bill went nowhere. And this portion of the Build Back Better bill was something that Biden and the Democrats were really pushing and really touting. We're going to tax the wealthiest Americans. We're going to make them pay their fair share. And all it takes is two Democrats, not even Republicans, two Democrats to put their foot down against that. And then all of a sudden that provision is gone. So the wealthy continue to have their wealth untaxed, unmolested, unbothered. And the Biden administration gets to continue on as Reagan 2.0.
He is such a terrible, terrible president. And again, we are, just in terms of ranking these people as like so ineffectual, just so disgustingly terrible. The fact that people actually rolled him out of his grave to suggest that he was somehow the anti-Trump or the savior of democracy, he is so feckless and terrible. I mean, and he can't move his own party to agree to his agenda. He can't put any pressure on his own party. He can't face up with Manchin and be like, look, mother, he can't do anything to get his own. He won't run anybody. And of course he won't, but he won't challenge his own party in primaries or stick it to him. He won't do anything to put the fear of God. He is such a waste of time. And he is the reason why. He's just another example why the Republicans in the midterm are going to slaughter the Democrats, why the Democrats never get anything accomplished, why they people have pointed out over the last few years people have pointed out like over his career, how he was actually anti Roe v. Wade, anti. But, this dude is just so ridiculous.
I think it's game, and I don't even think he wants to challenge anyone or anything. And I think that Biden is cyanide. Cyanide is sweet and it kills you slow. And what he's doing right now, he's bringing in all of these quote unquote black women and insulating himself because of the fact that he understands that Africans in America are more concerned with symbolism than actual progress, right? And he knows that it's a circle that he's running folks around. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get this nice black woman here, got to give her a white man or a white wife. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go get another black man or whatever. He has to, but for the most part, it's been black women that he's using to quote unquote insulate himself from the bullshit. So on that alone, if he's running again, of course, I mean, he may skate past unless he's up against Trump again. You know what I mean? Because of the fact that they're going to say, look at all the black people. He told you out the gate. He said, look, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. We forget about that. You know what I'm saying? And he's used that card, the whole ticket, the whole ride. And it doesn't matter what he does or don't do because, our people aren't paying attention to that. So, I don't think he wants to pass any damn bills. He doesn't care about that. It's just like, let's keep this shithole, active and keep it moving, basically.
I just want to Kamal's point about lists and ranking these presidents, the only legit ranking is one conducted by Margaret Kimberly in her book Prejudential. And put the link in the chat. I would encourage everybody to go to our channel and watch later on her being interviewed by my baby girl in 2020. My daughter Marley conducted the interview with Margaret Kimberly about her book. And that is the only appropriate way to rank these presidents and just how horrific they've been, particularly as they've related themselves to black folks.
I mean, let me ask you guys a question. I mean, politically, as a political party that wields any sort of power or influence, are the Democrats done out here? Like, are they outright done? Because we look at them, especially on state levels. Most of the fuckery in this country from laws is coming out of state legislatures, right? And I don't see the Democrats running a nationwide effort to try to reclaim some of these state houses, right? They just sort of concede some of these state bodies to Republican rule or small Democratic majority rule, maybe in one house. I'm thinking of Virginia. There's only a small Democratic majority in the Virginia Senate, but they have now a Republican governor and a Republican controlled, I think, is it General Assembly or House in Virginia. So, I mean, the DNCC as an apparatus, it seems as though they are completely content to concede statewide power and try to, I guess, focus on national elections. But that doesn't seem to be a winning strategy because the Republicans have gone the opposite and are now running the table with their agenda.
I don't think they're done. I mean, you know, every few years, there's always predictions that one of the parties is done forever. But the parties, I mean, let's just remember, Republicans get in office, they usually fuck things up so bad that whatever the alternative is, people are looking for it, right? So I don't, you know, the way the Republicans act is either whether on their watch or not, or usually because of their economic policies, you know, that there's probably going to be another great recession or another recession. War starts to happen again. I mean, these guys are so extreme in a lot of their behaviors that even the folks who like to pretend that they care about democracy will usually switch up. And that's how we got Obama in the first place, right? That's even how we got Biden in certain ways, because the extremism begins to not play out well, and there's no good way to hide it. So I don't necessarily know if that means that any party is actually done. I just know for us, we're done, as in if we rely on these two parties for any substantive change, it's always going to be sort of that political football of them sort of running this game on us, and us from the sidelines kind of thinking that, you know, this game is legitimate. Each team has, you know, there's rules and regulations to it, and we're just bystanders and fans and cheering and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think in terms of how the apparatus works, that there will be a resurgence at some point of demographic shifts, as long as they, you know, again, this is counting for as long as the country is stitched together. Because I also think there are the underlying issues that are happening in the country are pertaining or for me, again, over another 20 or 30 year span, looks like to me there's going to be a reckoning of some sorts, which is not going to be strictly what's happening in the world of electoral politics, just the way things are looking.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know if the Democratic Party is done, but, you know, I agree with Kamal. I mean, I think that electoral politics as it's propped up is done. You know, I think that we're moving so deep into fascism, it doesn't even matter, you know, whether you're Democrat or Republican, because, you know, it's going to be the same results. You know what I'm saying? It's like, do you want hot sauce or pepper on your steak? You know what I'm saying? It's either way, you're going to feel the spice. So, Democratic Party is toothless. We know that. We've been known that. And I think that, unfortunately, the thing that has us in this web is, you know, we want to still go for the quote unquote lesser of two evils. We're still trying to survive. We're desperate in this ocean, and we're swimming and we're trying to reach and we're trying to grab. And eventually, if we stay in that ocean, we're going to drown because we're not built to swim in it. You know what I'm saying? It's shark infested. We can't breathe. You can't see any land. You know what I'm saying? It's, you know, so I don't think that I don't think it really matters at this point, because neither one of them are for us ultimately.
I mean, I hope they're done. I just think that we just have to be mindful of the effort that they put forth in promoting themselves as legit alternative and using a lot of people that would appeal to many of us to stay within their ranks. They're certainly done in terms of offering up an alternative to the Republicans. They're finished in that. It's not. I don't think they're going to go any more to demonstrate a difference with the Republican Party, other than to offer up promises that they could be a party that they've never actually been, and every chance that they've had a potential to it. At times, like for instance, famously when Fannie Lou Hamer and others were engaging it in the way that they were, the party shut them down and did what they always do. So anyway, so I would like for them to be done as far as we're concerned, and we organize a different kind of engagement with the voting apparatus or anything else that we do.
Well,
So here in the state of Maryland, we have an upcoming Democratic primary, and we have every seat open, basically governor, attorney general, comptroller, etc. And everyone that's running for governor and everyone that's running for attorney general keeps having the same tagline in their ads: we're going to get the guns off the street. And it makes me absolutely nauseous when I hear it, because Maryland has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. So how are we going to get the guns off the street? More laws, Doug Gansler, more laws, Anthony Brown. And just as a side note, for Maryland Attorney General, Martin O'Malley's wife is running for Attorney General, along with his former Lieutenant Governor, Anthony Brown. It's so kind of gross to me that Martin O'Malley still has his tentacles all in Maryland politics. It's so gross. But anyway, that's just a observation on my end. But yeah, the Democrats here in Maryland are still trying to get the guns off the street, despite having the strictest fucking gun laws in the country. So these are the ideas that the Democrats are coming with: more laws, more punitive punishment, more people locked up for guns in America.
We should have a good conversation with some anarchist thinkers versus, let's say, some deep-rooted sort of I would say somebody who's professes to be a communist or believes in a nation state. Because like part of me is always torn around these ideas. I use that as a backdrop. It's like it's hard to me to see how you successfully run a country where you can step across some certain lines and have totally different rules and regulations, right? So some states will be pro-abortion, some states won't have abortion, some states will have, relatively speaking, tougher gun laws, and some states won't. You know, where easily, and particularly in terms of the gun laws, where everybody points out most of the guns that are legally bought or semi-legally bought in the South work their way up to the East Coast and North, because you can't regulate across borders when it's completely legal. Like it's almost like buying chewing gum, that you can get almost any gun you want, and of course you can transport that weaponry anywhere you want. So it's like, it's part of the whole thing around how this country is this empire, or this whatever it is, it really is. It's coming apart because the idea that they're going to operate, which has always been the battle within the way in which the creation of this country, this empire, has happened, right? North versus South, or the different rules, economically speaking, that in a lot of ways continues to play out in terms of the ways in which this country operates. And ultimately, it's part of, and again, I'm not even mad at it, it's part of what's causing a lot of the contradictions, which is leading to what we're seeing here is potentially a lot of the, let's say, the fights that seem to be happening, and could happen in a stronger way, where folks are, again, having these organized militias and so forth. And
but this is what I'm saying about the other issue, like about the point about voting, that gun rights and the reason, or gun laws and regulations, and the reason people, going back to our childhood, when people were promising the buybacks and the give us your guns and we'll forgive you, and all the things we've been hearing all our lives, these are politicians' tricks to avoid everything else. So I was just thinking again, about whether it's what I was arguing about, several other issues, including abortion recently, that there are legitimate issues and causes for concern, and then there are the ways these issues are politicized and run against us. And the gun issue is another one. So when I went back a couple years ago at the anniversary of the Kerner Commission and actually went and reread the entire, or a close, at least a majority of the whole Kerner report, what they ended up concluding, I think, is fascinating. It's not thought of as a revolutionary document, but this is the point that they were coming to 50 years ago already, and they said very clearly, all of these fake liberal symbolic plans, programs will all claims will all fail, because ultimately, as they even acknowledged in the report, what people need are jobs, education, healthcare, space, and that is where all of the solutions that we would want to see in society would start to come out. So yes, guns are a problem. mental health issues associated with guns are a problem. But if we lived in a society where people had space to get adequate mental health care, to get adequate health care in general, to get to space where they weren't worked literally to death, the likelihood that their depression or their issues would lead them picking up a gun and shooting someone goes way down, even if guns are just as easily accessible as they are today. So, but instead of dealing with all of that, it's much easier to just come back and say the guns by themselves are the issue, or anything else by itself is the issue, and we can, focus on that. And that's why they're able to manage us with these two ridiculous parties and keep us locked in this back and forth, inevitably leading us back to where we are. So,
but this is what comes with capitalism. It's necessary. And even the same old songs, the same old tune that Kim's talking about. This is business across the board. Everyone's, we got to get the guns off the street. We need tougher gun laws, so on and so forth. And then the masses, they parrot what these clowns are saying because they have no solutions. When you don't have a concrete analysis, when you're not when you're uncertain about how this thing goes, how this machine operates, you'll be confused every time. This machine is like a car, you know what I'm saying? But not just any old car. This is like a Porsche or a Lamborghini. You hit the wrong button, you're gonna crash. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't move like a Toyota or a Ford. You know what I'm saying? It's built a certain way, and it's designed to eventually self-destruct. We'll never get the health care we desire here. I don't care who the politician is. We'll never get, guns will never stop. It's not the guns aren't gonna miraculously get off the streets and no one's gonna die. White folks are not gonna stop killing people in crowds. You know what I mean? So we have to come up with alternative solutions, because we know unless we are totally blind in our first eye, unless we are confused in the head, for lack of better words, if we think that any Democrat or any Republican is going to save us, then we're fucked up. I mean, it's like, come on, like why are we even playing this game? You know what I'm saying? It's like we're in the Hunger Games. We know it, but we don't want to believe it, because ultimately we're gonna have to fight. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to hear about that. It sounds rough. It's not comfortable, but there's no other way around it. It's like death. You're gonna die. You can pray your ass away. You can look for the fountain of youth. You can do all that shit, but none of that's gonna help you. You can have the healthiest diet. You're gonna die eventually. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's going on with this country. We're in a serious they're in a crisis. We were in a crisis when we met these motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? So,
man, Kalanji's tripping. I'm on my way to the doctor today, and I expect fully he's going to tell me I'm living forever at this moment.
Oh yeah,
at least a hundo. Let's tell him, Jared. At least a hundo.
Dr. Frankenstein. You gonna see?
He didn't
Dr.
laugh at my
Zhivago.
joke, man. This dry Indian dude. He does not have a sense of humor. He's a brilliant doctor. I enjoy him, but he does not have a good bedside manner, as they say. And I keep trying to run my joke. He's like, the cautionary tales for black men. And I'm like, but I got a white mama that's at least 10, 20 more years, right? And he's like,
they ain't gonna help you no more. Even he like,
is he from here? I think he just doesn't get your joke. Yeah.
No, he's not from here, and he doesn't get the
Rachel.
joke. But he and his colleague have actually told me that, which I actually thought was interesting. He told me medically they do not differentiate along the lines of so-called mixed race. So the black gene apparently takes over in terms of how they deal with their patients. So
what part of India is he
medically, we haven't got there yet, because he doesn't want to chit chat. I've been seeing him for years, and he's not a chit chat.
Chit chat. He don't want chit chat.
He's
Take
like,
blood pressure and get you the fuck out his office, Jared.
Exactly.
I still go by the CAT system.
Tea off time at like 9 o'clock. We got it. Let's get
Probably, he probably got other things. He's like, and You are not funny.
Ooh, I have an end. I have an end for your doctor.
Still
You
nigga.
need to ask him. You need to ask him what regional food in India does he prefer, right? That way you can maybe get an idea as to where in the nation he may be from. Does he prefer
try.
North Indian food, South Indian food?
I'm on my way in 5 minutes. I will report back maybe tomorrow or next week how that went. By the way, speaking of medical, man, just real quick, I just was reminded I didn't report back. I appreciate all the prayers and the thoughts, but we did end up getting the best of the worst news for Marley's knee.
Oh, how's she doing?
It's almost assuredly an ACL tear, but not MCL, PCL, or meniscus. So it's not great news, but it was the best of the bad news. So
can she heal an ACL via rest and therapy, or does she need surgery?
Not if she wants to be an athlete, so apparently, and this is interesting, real quick. Oh, check this out. Check out what the doctor said. So he's going over the MRI with us, right? Mm-hmm. And he's giving us the news. This is fascinating. And he says, long story short, there is a no surgery option, but that's not good for anybody that wants to be athletic or anything. There's always going to be a concern. Then there are multiple other surgery options. But he said one of the things that is still being debated apparently in the academic medical literature is to what extent, because he said women who play soccer, you're way more likely, I forgot the number, but it's far more prevalent to have a knee injury than even men who play American football. So women who play world football get more knee injuries than men who play. In part, he said because men are built differently, can withstand the pressure, the whatever differently. But he also said, this is it. This is the thing, Kim. He said some of these studies are showing that women have estrogen reflectors or producers in their knees, and that women during their ovulation are more likely to suffer knee injuries, apparently.
What? Wow.
This is part of part of what they were asking her was, about her cycles and her this is and that. And of course, I'm in the room, so nobody likes that part. Everybody's uncomfortable with that part. But, but it was fascinating that I had never. So I was like, that's deep. That so women pay attention, maybe, according to the literature, maybe to your cycle, and maybe put on an extra knee brace during your periods as you become athletic, because apparently that's in a heightened, you're at heightened risk for those injuries.
But what does the estrogen do? Does it diminish your capacity to what? We didn't
really have time to get into it. Some other things ended up happening that just took the attention away from. We were obviously focused on the diagnosis, but I will follow up with him on that. But what I ended up thinking, my initial thought, unscientific, unexpert as it is that this is the evolutionary process of protecting the woman during the times where she's most likely to become pregnant, where women would be maybe more encouraged to chill, take it a little easier, protect the life that's eventually going to be growing. And that's how the part of that evolutionary protectiveness to say, when the body's in the process of preparing for new life, you got to adjust yourself. You can't be running here. You got to, you got to slow down. Yeah. Now, then of course, so anyway, that's just my initial guess, but I will definitely ask him, because unfortunately we're going to have to see this guy several more times over the next, 6 to 8 months. So
we are sending healing energies to Marley's knee. We are going to send healing energies to that ACL. Jesus, right, Allah, Buddha, everybody come through. Everybody
all of them
up for Marley's knee. Thank you.
Shout out to Marley, and we do wish her well. I don't know about Kim's prayers, but otherwise,
don't knock my prayers. I pray for you, Kalonji. Shit, you better not be turning down these prayers.
Right.
Oh boy.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Sister Kim. Kim's the only one that prayed for me. You other cats pray on me. Anyway, boom. Welcome to the Remix Morning Show. I
just don't feel like anybody's listening when I do it. I don't want to mess you up. My bad. Anyway,
it's all good.
Catch y'all tomorrow, man.
See you, Jared.
Oh, you out of here?
Yeah, I got
Be
a
safe,
break.
brother.
I told you I'm going to see my doctor. I'm gonna go ask him. I'm gonna go use Kim's technique and see if I
All
can
you
get to
gotta do-
another level with this
about the
guy
food.
after like
Ask him-
10 years.
Ask him where his favorite Indian spot is. Now, I just want that for personal reference because I love
Okay,
when
gotcha.
they are from the
Hey.
region. Like, where
Yeah.
locally do you like to get your Indian food? Now, House of India, shout out the House of India on Snowden River Parkway. They have great Indian food, but I want to hear from the Indian man where he likes to get his Indian food. So yeah,
There you go. I'm gonna work on that today.
Well,
Stay
I
tuned,
really have a
everybody.
good-
If you
Oh.
this is
Go ahead,
this
go
is
ahead.
the
Say
teaser
your
for
thing.
tomorrow. Sorry, go ahead. Okay,
No,
what
no,
did you say, Kamal?
well,
Jesus, y'all just talking all over each other. For
let me
about-
go. Let me go.
Right,
And you
raise your
say your
hand.
goodbyes. Let me go first, and you say your quick goodbyes.
My screen.
So I
is
think
frozen,
we can
so
do.
it's cool.
I'm assuming we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we haven't previewed this, but we're going to have an in-depth conversation on the Congo. As folks remember, last week or a couple of weeks ago now, the gold-capped tooth of Patrice Lumumba was returned to the Lumumba family. And that just, that got a cycle of news, particularly how it was portrayed. So we thought it was important to go in depth on not only just the history of the Congo, but what's happening now in the Congo, which a lot of us are not always caught up on. So we have 3 special guests that are going to be waiting in the wings. I invite my co-host to please come on and stay, ask questions, and engage in a dialogue. So I just wanted to preview that. Go, Jared.
Hey, sorry, I'm gonna miss it at least live. I'll be checking it out in the car and in the waiting room, etc., and so forth, and all of that. So peace, welcome to our guests, and shout out to the remixers. I'll see you all later on.
No doubt. I was thinking about coming on, but then I see I got beef with one of those guys in the wings, so I'm not sure.
Oh,
But anyway, it's gonna be a great. But man, we're gonna talk about it when he come on the screen. But anyway, be safe out there, Jared, and stay on
Right
point.
on. Yes, indeed. Peace,
Checking out the
everybody.
Remix Morning Show. What happened, Kim?
I just said deuces to Gerard. That's it.
Okay, deuces to Gerard. Okay, so we're gonna do this quick transition and be right back with you. Is the ear doctor still here? It don't look like.
No, I think you got to do it. One of y'all got to do it.
He think I got to do it. Okay.
One of y'all got to do it.
Ain't
Press the
Good
button.
luck.
Salon.
Yeah, hit
I
that button
got
before
you.
you leave, brother.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Now we know y'all still trying to get the camera work together. I saw that in the background, folks moving all around and all that kind of good stuff. But we want to thank y'all for coming on the show. So the person that we know the most, at least that I know the most, obviously is Kwame, who's from Friends of the Congo. But of course, and because I know him, I'm going to shit talk him a little bit. And we do use the language here. So he didn't send me bios. I just want to put that out there.
Typical
So
Kwame.
I just would allow, before we get into really the serious, deep discussion, just briefly to allow each of you to introduce yourselves in terms of your background and expertise, in terms of talking about the Congo and all the work that you do around the African continent. But just the teaser, nothing too long. So we can start with you, Kwame, and then we'll work our way over.
Well, I'm certainly deeply humbled and honored to be in the presence of such esteemed folks like that fella in the red shirt over there. But, yeah. Greetings, sister. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
All right. And
Thank you.
Kamal, thanks for having us on here. Black Power Media is critical. We hope that what happens after this is that there be a direct connection between what's happening in the, with all due respect, neo-colonial state that we visited recently. No disrespect to the people who are struggling for their liberation. But this kind of work is critical, in shaping the narrative about what we're dealing with, defining that we're in a war. So before I jump in to that too deeply, I'm, as Kamal said, Kwame Wilberg with Friends of the Congo. I hail from Guyana, live here in Atlanta with my family. And Kwadwo and I just came back on from an amazing visit to the DRC that was challenging, engaging, hectic, everything you want, and enriching, and very, very critical to our work at the same time. So we're very glad to have this opportunity to share with y'all. So big respect the BPM.
Thank
Yes,
you so
sir.
much. Quadro, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, why don't you give us a little intro?
Yes. So yeah, thank you for having us. It's good to be here. My name is on the continent. It was nice being able to tell people that my name is Kwadwo, because that's not usually how I say it here. But I mean, here, in Babylon, I usually go by Kojo. Although, as soon as people see my name on paper or written out, Quadjo is inevitable. So I do go by Quadjo, Kojo, Quidjo. Friends of the Congo. I've been working with Friends of the Congo for a few years. Been on my radar since undergrad, which is many more years ago. And I'll keep it at that for now. I think the good thing about not setting in a bio is, I've got a lot more stuff on there than I feel like is ever necessary or relevant. So for me,
No, that's great. It's a I believe the brother's name is Pase. Am I correct in saying that?
Passy.
Passy, okay. So Passy, and he may be having technical difficulties. I'm not quite sure because his video is not on, but if he can hear us and he wants to give a brief intro, he can do that. If he can't, then can you hear us, Passy? Then you're on mute right now, so we don't know. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna let that slide. If he can, when you can hear us, you jump in and join in. But in the meantime, we're just going to move on with the interview. So I want to start quick background. So like I said, apparently Belgium worked with the family of Patrice Lumumba at the very least, and maybe with elements of the state, to return a gold cap tooth that they kept after directly participating, orchestrating, along with the CIA, along with local forces, the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, I believe in 1961. And the ceremony was conducted, and the way obviously corporate media presented it, they presented it as almost a healing or as a move forward in the relationships, because now they were willing to sort of go by and talk about the history of colonialism, but now suggest that we now need to move forward and heal from that. So I wanted to start off with just talking about sort of the optics of what took place and kind of like why now, what led us to this moment, and get perspectives on that. And then we can jump in on either a little bit of history that led to the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, and then delve really into what's happening in the current day and age. So I don't know who wants to jump in first on that. And Kojo, it might be you because you're the only one left at this stage.
And
Surprise.
yeah. Okay. Well, I'll get us get the ball rolling. I mean, well, I guess on one hand, I'm really curious as to what y'all saw, because over. Okay, so let me put it this way. I think your question about optics was an interesting one because at the very least, when we're talking about the optics of, the two states meeting up, there's this, I think, unshakable feeling that I get of watching you when you're watching how like the DRC state operates as far as military maneuvers and really like just the pageantry, the way things look. When we're talking about the president or the military operating in a way so as to receive Belgium, there's this, unshakable feeling of watching European rituals, superimposed onto, the way African states operate, which is just very uncomfortable. And kind of a reminder of like the depth of the colonial indoctrination. But I will say, I mean, to again, your point as well around the way it was being framed, the narrative as far as healing and restorative. Our brother Kambale, he pointed out very aptly that this tooth was returned not just 61 years later, right? but with no sort of criminal investigation as to what happened around the assassination of Brother Lumumba, which in and of itself is a crime, right? Like when we get to this whole conversation of reparations and everything, it's always, oh yes, let's move on, let's restore, let's, be happy, truth and reconciliation, without any sort of measures for accountability or justice, or even a simple investigation into the truth around what happened. Because, that's an important thing to keep in mind, is that while everyone knows what happened at this point, many books have been written about it, a lot of research has been done about it. No states have actually come forward and said this is what happened, right? Like the official state narrative, as far as I understand, from 1961 to this day on the Belgium side, is that Patrice Lumumba was killed by his own people. And, that's a really bold lie when you go and orchestrate a whole, assassination, and then to stick to that lie for 60 years and then return the tooth that you had because you orchestrated the whole thing and then executed as if, peace and justice is restored, is wild.
Right. It's I also found it ironic that a few days ago would have been Patrice Lumumba's 97th birthday, right? And shout out to Kwame, because Kwame was instrumental in the interview I did with his daughter, Juliana Lumumba, some months back. I usually don't give Kwame any credit because most of the time he don't deserve any credit, but there's a whole nother story. But I wanted to ask you all, do you think that, here it is, 61 years later, and they're returning this tooth. Do you, why now? Would you say, Kwame? And do you think that this was supposed to be a birthday gift? Like what? Because this is just so close to it. It was just kind of odd. So I wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, really. Sorry, but the connections. Feel like I'm back in Isangi. Just briefly, this whole dynamic with returning the tooth, family, mourning. I don't know if I'm still connected.
Passy's doing a free throw over there, but go ahead. Now he's not connected.
No, I think he froze as soon as he said that, unfortunately.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you back again.
I'll say this quickly before somebody's trying to get me. Looks like they did.
Now you're here.
Quadra, I just think we're going to have to go if you want to step in, because otherwise, yeah.
Bad. Man, all right. There you go, Brother Kwame. Quick.
I tell you what, I'm gonna log off and log back in. You go ahead, Quadro. Just for a second, the family dynamic in this question is critical. Think about it. The Walter Rodney family question, the and other family issues. So I don't know if you can still hear me.
It's like every time he says, "Can you hear me?"
Yeah,
I think he knows it's about to go out. Yeah,
right.
Quadro, let me ask you a question. So, we know that the tooth was returned to the family. Have Belgium ever given the family any sort of monetary compensation for the assassination of Patrice Lumumba?
That is a good question. I don't know the answer. I can't answer that affirmatively, but my initial assumption would be no, because that kind of restitution kind of betrays complicity in whatever the process was. Like for Belgium to stick to the story that Patrice Lumumba was killed by his own people, and then to give money to the family, that would send a certain message.
But it's strange. If as they say he was killed by his own people, then how did Belgium end up with his remains?
Right. The colonial masters demand no logic.
Correct.
I want to ask, because I think that one of the things we do is we take for granted, information that we have, that any and everyone is checking us out. first of all, even knows who Patrice Lumumba is, but secondly, the nature of his assassination, because I saw someone in the chat ask about how they got his tooth. And of course, we know the horrific assault, for lack of better words, that took place. Passy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yes. We hear you well. We begin to wonder if you were really
Hello?
there now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. How's everything going?
Yeah, little problem of connection. Yeah, great.
No problem.
Things are going well.
No doubt. Can you since you're here, can you assist us with giving us some insight on who Patrice Lumumba was and how he was assassinated, if that's okay?
Okay, thank you for this very interesting question. Lumumba was, everyone knows that he was the first prime minister of Congo. So after Belgians went back in and gave power to folks, to we national leaders, and he was, let's say, the founder, one of the founder of the political party called MNC, okay, the movement of, and he is the pioneer of the Congolese revolution. So Lumumba is for us the father of this movement which brought us to independence. And Lumumba as a Pan-African, and Pan-Africanist, Lumumba is for us a reference. And Lumumba is an ideology, is the example, is the model to follow for we Congolese young people, and generations, so many generations have to be inspired by his ideology, his dream, uh, his vision, which is detailed in his letters and his speeches that he was stating, he was declaring in front of those colonialists, those masters who were there to exploit and to manipulate the population. So Lumumba for us is the person is not only physical, but is a spiritual and ideological character that we will always remember, and so as to make that change, the change that the Congo needs so far. Yeah. That's what I can say about Lumumba. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, that was excellent. Yes. We hear you.
So can we talk a little bit? Maybe I think Kwame can. His camera's not working, but he can hear and see us.
Right.
I don't know if you want to add on a little bit about Lumumba, but maybe when you can do that, and then talk a little bit, bring us up a little bit to like what is the situation today in Congo,
right,
in terms of governing and the forces that be in terms of what's happening in the Congo, vis-a-vis also the colonial powers.
Right.
What is the relationship today with Belgium? What is the relationship today with the United States?
Right. So y'all can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So cool. So two things. Just using the mission of Friends of the Congo as a backdrop, right? Not to be too self-indulgent, but here's the thing, right? The mission of Friends of the Congo is this: one, to support peace and justice, the struggle for peace and justice by Congolese people, to support them in their struggle for peace and justice. We don't have the answers. We're a solidarity movement. They have the answers. Two, to make sure that the resources of the Congo are used for the development of Congolese people. The Congo, as you all know, is a vast country with vast resources that plays a pivotal role in the global order, whether it be in terms of military products capacity or just the strategic location of Africa there. If you don't go through the Mediterranean, you're going to come around the Cape of Good Hope, whatever. Africa is so, as you know, strategically important to any conflict in that area. But here's Lumumba, right? Here's Lumumba engaging with Malcolm X, raising the question that what the Belgians are doing to him, what's happening in the Congo is similar to what's happening in Mississippi. It's ironic that you mentioned Lumumba's birthday. It's the same day as Medgar Evers, right? And as the same year, 1925, second. And then, of course, we must remember the other person that was killed right around then, going back a little further, the sister called the mother of the African Revolution, Kimpavita, right? So there's this ongoing assault on African humanity, on African culture, African community. When you talk about the impact of the neo-colonial state, this conflict between Rwanda and the Congo, right? If you look at it at the state level, what happens is we were going into the Congo, as y'all would have known. You heard Tshisekedi in Kinshasa pointing out that the only way the M23 rebels could operate and do what they're doing, and Pasi will probably fill us in on the other tens of rebel organizations, quote unquote. The only way that could happen is if they're receiving support from another nation state. Remember, M23 rebels had occupied a significant part of Goma and then had to be pushed out with the UN, MONUSCO, and also with forces from SADC, right? So that kind of capacity suggests that there's forces behind it. Now, if there's that kind of nation state forces behind it, Rwanda does not produce, nor does the Congo, the kind of weaponry that you need for that kind of operation. Where does it come from? So these are allies of NATO, and the Black Alliance of Peace does a great job in pointing out. This is why the role of the Black folks in the United States, this close to the empire, right, is so critical, right? That we are not pretending that we could liberate the Congo. The Congolese will do that. But we could help take the imperialist boot off the neck of what's happening. Now, I'm under no illusions about the capacity of this colonial state to oppress Black people here. We see what's happening. They constantly do it. But, well, let me just say this without saying too much, that we're pretty close to the sources of power. And, well, let me put it in a kind of Dr. King perspective. That might be a little more palatable, but I think we need to do more than that. But I'm not going to say it. But he points out the role of the Africans in the United States this close to the mightiest military power on earth, right? It's critical. And it can be checked. You can't stop it if you go head to head with it. They got more bullets than we do. But the role is critical. Malcolm realized that. That's why he went to the UN. And that's why you see the neo-colonial status as it exists causes a kind of crazy narrative that separates us, that makes us think of ourselves as some kind of separate entity. When you stand on the border between Goma and Rwanda, and you see the tension, where right now, Pasi can help me out with this, right now Rwandese people inside the Congo face a kind of vitriol from Congolese people that's really in the same class status, right? It's the colonial border, because before the colonial intervention, I would guess that these communities interacted, had the same music, so the colonial influence is so devastating, right? And I'll just say one more thing. I'm not saying that these communities were always arm in arm with each other, loving each other, that in Somalia, everybody was in love. But all I'm saying is the imperial intervention raises it to another level, where now all of a sudden, where you used to go, you need a visa, you need a passport. And folks will look at you and say, you're from Rwanda, you must be the enemy. You must be with M23. I'm going to take you out. But who are they taking out? You're taking out villages and people on the street, and the people who benefit, the imperialist class on both sides, the compradors on both sides, in cahoots with, well, I'm going to say, Tesla. Well, let me stop. But go ahead. I don't know if that answers the question a little. Come on.
No, you can name names, by the way.
Yeah.
We don't
come on here acting scary, Kwame. What's up, man?
I mean, and Pasi can help me. The oil companies in the Congo, whether it be Total or Engine or whatever, think of Nigeria with Shell and BP. I mean, come on, unless we break out of this imperialist hole, there's no way that the global economic order, which to me is the root cause of all this conflict, that exploits, yes, there's tribal, yes, there's internal conflict within these communities, but the level at which it occurs, right? That's what Malcolm and Lumumba and Nkrumah that we're confronting. We still have to fight to destroy the neo-colonial state.
You know. I thought Pastor, you were saying something. My bad. Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely a point. And you mentioned Malcolm. I think that it's also important to stress the love that Malcolm had for Patrice Lumumba. You know, he said that Lumumba was the greatest black man who ever walked the African continent. That's pretty heavy. And he went on to name his daughter after him. You know, so that's a you know, Patrice Lumumba is someone that when you're talking about Africa and you're talking about revolution and you're talking about leaders, he should be studied just as much as any other leader. And what's going on in the Congo, what's going on in Rwanda, as well as Ethiopia, and the parallels between these particular countries and how the U.S. and NATO and the UN gets down internationally, would shock some of you.
Yeah. I think if I could just jump in, I hope Passy, I'm kind of handing out to him this question that you're raising, right? In terms of Lumumba, not only as an individual, but as a vision, as a narrative about what, how to break out. His party was the national party. Other parties, and Passy, help us out here, because almost all of the leaders, they lean on these tribal affiliations, and hey, look, I understand it. If you're going through the airport and somebody recognizes, hey, I know Kalanji from Atlanta. Hey, you don't have to go in the line. You come around here, but it seems benign, but it builds up to where people are killing folks. So this, I think Lumumba's and Nkrumah's idea that in order to break out of this colonial devastation that holds us in the West and over there, kind of what Ngugi talks about in terms of remembering and reconnecting. Lumumba's political agenda was moving to that direction. It had to do with an understanding that we need that kind of unity. So I don't know if Passy is here, and if you want to weigh in on that. I think it's critical to get both Malcolm and Lumumba.
I think Passy still may be having some technical difficulties in terms of jumping in. So I don't know if Kojo, if you wanted to jump in really quick and add on to that.
Can we, I need a refresher. Brother Kwame, can you, would you mind distilling that question?
Yeah, I was thinking of. I mean, look, at a visceral level, we connected Lumumba, right? I mean, Kalanji did the interview with Juliana Lumumba. I'm sure there's several things happening at the energetic level, even in that, right? We don't have to like all Africans. You see, I could still embrace Kalanji sometimes, but like it's revolutionary love, right? Don't get but. It's this energy, this meaning of Lumumba, this meaning of Nkrumah, in a restorative way, right? What they do, what Walter Rodney does in his work, what they do is they affirm our humanity. They kind of bring this sense that these divisions that were imposed upon us, whether it be language or whatever, right? And we know that English, French, Dutch, whatever, it doesn't capture the full range of our humanity, right? So they got us by the short hairs, right? So when what Kwadwo was saying is, and Kwadwo just had a wonderful time connecting with that on a cultural level, and I say it kind of flippantly, but that cultural connection wasn't supposed to happen, right? The whole project, in my opinion, was to divide us, dismember us, and cut us off from each other. And here is Kwadwo returning to the source and making that connection. So Kwadwo, we're talking about Lumumba's role in helping us find that space of restoration, which to me is part of the liberation struggle.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. It was just such a beautiful experience all around. And I think, per usual, I think Brother Kwame really captures it. Puts it, I think for me, into words that are hard to follow, because I'm like, yeah, I mean, that says it all. You know, as far as the experience, being able to, I mean, you know, it's one thing growing up, you know, you grow up in the States. I remember reading books and being like, oh my gosh, look at this, insert whatever European. That was a really big deal because by the time they were like 10 years old, they could speak 8 European languages. And you go in there and you're like, oh man, that must be so hard to do. Because here, you know, it's like we get the one. And then you go over to Congo and it's like, you know, it's that same thing, right? Like, one, never mind the fact that like whoever that European was like, you know, a prince or something, and they had the resources to be able to travel and like study with a whole bunch of people so they could learn all these things. You're a person in like a reasonably cosmopolitan area anywhere in the Congo, and you probably by default speak 3 to 4 languages, right? Like right off the bat. And, you know, not in the, oh, they're dialects, nah, like full blown languages, you know? And just thinking about like the way national identity is bound up in this sense of diversity and in this sense of embrace. And like Brother Kwame mentioned, you know, there's a whole bunch of obstacles to that, right? Namely, you know, colonialism and the way that difference is weaponized to maintain, you know, strife and disorder. But outside of that, right, it's very clear that, you know, one, everyone has an identity, right? Like a national identity of Congolese, right? Even, you know, people who are seen as, you know, question, you know, like with this whole Rwandans versus Congo thing, like Rwandan expats identify as Congolese, right? Like it means something to be Congolese. And that's part of the Lumumba legacy, is this understanding that, man, I guess it's a really at its core Pan-African legacy, right? Pan-African understanding that at the core, right? Like at least within this paradigm, you know, maybe down in the future we can, you know, balkanize, we can go our own separate ways and still, you know, keep it together. But at the very least, right now, we need to pull together. We need to find some sort of unifying force within all of the things that threaten to keep us divided. And it was amazing participating in like feeling, immersing in that, right? Whether it's through learning languages, right? Like Lingala, Swahili, even French. I mean, you know, or Topoke, you know, like there's so many languages, right? And they're all spoken by Congolese people. And that's, I don't know, it feels like a mundane point, but it's really important to understand, right? Because again, that's like you think about the European context, language is something that divides people. You live in France, you speak French. You live in Italy, you speak Italian. Here, Congo, like everyone's identifying as Congolese, even if they're speaking completely different languages. And they're all learning or speaking each other's languages too. It's not like, oh, you know, like we speak Swahili and only Swahili, you know, like, nah, we also speak Lingala. We also speak Topoke. We also speak, you know, French. Or food, or like the regional differences, right? Because the geography of the country is huge. And, you know, I guess not to belabor that point, but, you know, I agree with what Brother Kwame is saying, right? Like the Lumumba project was vast. It was forward thinking. It was unity oriented, you know. How do we, again, pull all of our differences together and find a functional national identity out of that? And, you know, one of the great tragedies of the whole conspiracy against him is that we didn't get to see how that turned out. Because I think, I mean, even here in the States, we have a lot to learn about, or we have a lot to gain from being able to leverage the outcomes that experiment.
Man,
Kawaja, can I ask you a question? I mean, here, it's been several decades since Patrice Lumumba was assassinated, and you're from the Friends of the Congo. I'm curious, who are the enemies of the Congo present day, in the form of colonial powers or neo-colonial powers and corporate powers? Because I know there's no ethical consumerism under capitalism, but what are some of the bad actors in Congo right now that you think Black Americans need to be made aware of?
Right. Well, I mean, I think the term "enemies of the Congo" is interesting because it seems like everyone loves Congo. Everyone loves it, Nah, but for real, I mean, it depends. There's a lot of, the way I would answer this, in a sense, is to say like the fundamental bad actor is the state. Is like the government, right? You go on the ground, you're talking to people, and like one thing that's very clear is that the people understand that the government has no presence in their lives, right? Like it's kind of what do they call it? A libertarian utopia, right? If for all the libertarians out there, go out there and check out Congo. It's no healthcare, government, no so many things, infrastructure. It's all, and that's not to say that stuff doesn't exist, but it's where it exists, it's produced by the people, right? So if you think that the function of the government is to serve the people, right, is to be that extension of the people's collective will and ability, then the government is, I would say, number one as far as bad actors as it exists today. And obviously that goes into the whole colonialism, neo-imperialism, neocolonialism paradigm, right? We have to get into a conversation about Western governments, including the US, including Belgium, including France. I would say those are the big three. And then outside of the nation states, there's the corporate actors that Brother Kwame alluded to earlier that are even more powerful in a lot of ways than these nation states, right? So the big ones that we're pretty much always looking at, and they've got lawsuits against them, Tesla, Apple, pretty much if they're making computers, if they're making electric car batteries, if they're making cell phones, right? They have something that they need from Congo. And the understanding is if they need something from Congo in that context, then they're pretty much actively working against the best interests of the people, whether that involves destabilizing the area so they get cheap access to land and cheap access to minerals, employing child labor so they get literal cheap / slave labor to extract these minerals, working with neighboring states like Rwanda so they can, subvert. This whole supply chain thing is really complicated and there's a lot of layers to it. But to your question, it's states and corporations.
I know we got to run. I want to publicly thank Friends of the Congo. I want to give them props because when I first met Kwame 20 years ago, he had a tight suit on, a beret, and a cigarette in his mouth, running around talking about he was French. So now he's embracing his African self now. So I'm like, thank you, Maurice and the whole crew at Friends of the Congo. You all did an excellent job for saving my brother. I can actually call him my brother now. And I ain't gonna say nothing about Al Sharpton today. But when I met Kwame, let's just say it was kind of different. Anyway, thank you, Friends of the Congo. Anyway, but yeah, man. But we want to appreciate and thank you all for coming through and Kamal setting up the interview. And I think that it should definitely be revisited because the Congo is one of the most important regions on the planet, and I mean on the entire planet, not just on the continent. And I think that it's underestimated. And I think that the genocide there and in Rwanda and surrounding places is going unchecked, and it's disrespectful for folks, particularly Africans in America, to be so cowardice and to turn the cheek and act like they don't know what's going on over there. So it's bigger than just a tooth being returned. True. You know what I'm saying? This is a legacy, and you know, and someone has to pay for this this crime against, you know, our against us, shall I say, One Africa. So anyway, definitely appreciate you all coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, much thanks.
Thank you guys. Yeah.
Appreciate that. We hope that Black Power Media connects directly. You know, like I said, we're facilitators, right? So this question of knowledge and hearing from the people on the ground who work in those factories. And I know we are up against the clock here. I think in closing, that question about the enemy of the Congo, right? And the root cause of it, I would say, is the material. This is a global capitalist system. We follow the rat. I mean, this is the tail of the rat. And if we had time, Kwadwo would just share about how expatriates at a massive corporate level, but also at an individual level, that someone we met, one of the many encounters from Montreal, could walk into the Congo, get some gold, get some diamonds, and walk back out. Damn. Individual. That's the tail of the rat.
Right.
That's gangster. That's gangster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. So thank y'all for coming on. We're going to try this again, obviously with a better internet connection next time. But we appreciate all the information y'all gave.
All right. Much love. Y'all take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Y'all be safe. Checking out the Remix Morning Show. We'll be right back at you. Peace.
Do you have to let me finish?
Uh-oh.
Well, all right.
I was actually switching. See what happens there? Okay, we'll survive.
Yep. Welcome back to the Remix Morning Show, Black Power Media. Excellent interview and guests there, Kamau and Kalonji. And, you know, when I was reading up about this, representation of Patrice Lumumba's gold tooth back to his family and just rereading the details about his death, I was thinking of Dr. Iyele Echele from the Medicine Bag. And I remember when she was doing the remix with us and doing the Medicine Bag, she talked about white folks juju. And she said, don't think that the white people ain't got juju either. And there must have been some juju behind them assassinating Patrice, disinterring him, dismembering him, and then dissolving his remains in acid. I mean, what deviltry? Like, who can even conceptualize of such horrific disrespect to a human body, and specifically that they reserved that for him? You know what I mean? Like, the white people juju was activated against that brother's body and his soul and his spirit, and still his legacy still remains decades later. So you can kill his body, but you couldn't kill his movement.
Right, but that's what the effort was, you know, and that's what Chairman Fred was talking about, and others, Mao, when he talked about you can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill a revolution, you know. I mean, excuse me. Yeah, you can't kill the revolution. And it's like, you know, when we look at someone like Lumumba, you would think that every African on the planet would know about the atrocities that were presented to him. And it's like, you know, we talk about folks like Emmett Till, which we should talk about Emmett Till. But I think that because folks didn't see the actual pictures of what happened or the footage of what happened to Patrice Lumumba, they don't really get it or understand, you know, what took place. But the atrocities continue, and you know, we're dealing with, you know, you said what type of person would do that. I said
deviltry. I said deviltry. I know we're not talking about people. We are not talking about humans here. We're talking about demons. Demons.
Yeah, I mean, it is just you know, if whether you believe in any type of spiritual system or not, we know the difference between what's good and what's evil. And that right there is something that horror films are made of.
Truly.
You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? I mean, you're talking about, you know, they beat him or they beat them, assassinated, you know, put him in front of a firing squad, then chop the body up into pieces, then put him in the vats of acid to, like you said, try to they tried to murder his spirit. They tried to take everything. They tried to take his essence, and it did not happen. It did not happen because of the fact that he grew, and you know, in one of my favorite interviews was with his daughter, because I'm looking at the offspring. I'm looking at the continuance of this man, and I don't get caught up into who's who and what's your relationship and all of that. But it was a difficult interview because to even try to ask certain questions, I don't know how I would respond if a family member of mine had been, you know, I mean, treated that in that manner. And these bastards still held on to his tooth. And they bragged about it for years. And then they tried to deny that they had it. That's the other thing. And here it is 61 years after the assassination, after the dismemberment, after the torture, you produce this tooth and you bring it back. Because to them, it was a trophy. It was like if they could have, they would have put Patrice Lumumba's head on the wall like they do deer or bears, and you know what I'm saying, if they could. And whew, honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if they had more body parts.
Right.
I would not be surprised.
That's exactly right. Like whatever they've turned over, who knows what else they've had. But
that's right.
You know, I mean, part of this is the ongoing idea that the colonialists and then the neo-colonialists want to retain power, wealth, resources at all costs, and they understand that. So they understand that even 60 years later, that the idea that somehow that they can have now a media moment, and that, you know, just to talk about what the event that took place was basically them doing what these colonialists have done throughout modern history, is to make fake apologies, create events for them to display some sorrow for what happened, but to never do anything, obviously, which is part of their intent, to never do anything significant to repair the harm, because they have no intention of repairing the harm, because they caused it for a reason. And the reason they caused the harm was to take over resources, land, and people, and that still holds true today. And so even when we had that ceremony, which which the family participated in, and my assumption is that the Congolese government participated in, and tried to portray it as some sort of healing, we understand, or we should understand, that the colonialists are only using this as an opportunity to say, let's put the past behind us and start anew, which means for them not putting the past behind us, but a continuation without people bringing up what they consider the uncomfortable conversation of how they dismembered a leader, overthrew a leader, put a leader in acid, took trophies, body parts of that leader. They don't want to have that. Obviously, they don't want that brought up. They want to act like they've done enough now for that to be forgiven or not spoken about. But they want to continue on with the colonial relationship, which is why they assassinated him in the first place. It was because Lumumba was not willing to continue on with the colonial relationship. And then others who also tried to carry on the legacy were also killed, became guerrilla fighters, and have continued on with the struggle in various forms to this day, in the generations after. So we have to understand, of course, the colonial and neo-colonial leaders are only interested in the continuation and perpetuation of stealing land, resources, money, and controlling economies. That's what they're interested in, and they're interested in anything that has to do with anything around reparations or healing. And there's nothing that you can do short of a revolution to make them be interested in anything of that nature.
I wonder if there were any sort of conditions attached to the Lumumba family receiving back that tooth. You know what I mean? Like, they were aware that the Belgium were still in possession of his remains. And I wonder, I mean, because I just know how these people operate. Like, you have to forego any sort of monetary claims against us in order for you to get this remains of your loved one back. I'm not saying that's what happened, but it just would not shock me if that indeed was the case, if they have not already received some sort of compensation for his murder. And if they haven't, I mean, that interest is rolling up. It's been 61 years. They need to come on.
I'm still in touch with Juliana Lumumba. In fact, I texted the other day. So I plan on bringing her back onto the platform again to talk about this, because I think that is an interesting question. I didn't want to just, ask a bunch of questions, on the phone or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm gonna definitely look to bring her back on, because that was one of the things she had requested back in the interview we did in October. They wanted, and folks were like, well, it's just the tooth. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but this shows the insanity of people, because some folks will be like, well, why would you want to? This is the remains of your family member. If nothing else, if you wanted nothing else but to bury it. You understand?
If you wanted nothing else but to have it in your possession and not the possession of the Belgian fucking government. You know what I'm saying? What business do they have with any remains of Patrice? Like, come on, y'all. I mean, not y'all, but you understand what I'm saying. People who ask goofy questions like that, like, stop playing.
Yeah.
And it's to broaden it out too. And so it's not just about, and obviously we're not saying like, but the family has endured, which is a lot. But again, Lumumba's assassination, unlike the killings, let's say here in America, of victims of police brutality, which are arbitrary, Patrice Lumumba's killing was an attempt to, not even an attempt, it was the overthrow of a legitimate government in order to steal resources and continue to take control of that government, the politics of that government, both domestically and internationally. And so what the Belgium government and the US government and the French government and all of those who participated is much broader than any personal reparations, obviously, to the family. But again, I say that they owe, knowing that they have no intention, again, of giving, because they did it, and they did it for a reason, and that reason remains, which is the total control of the resources of not only that landmass, but obviously the entire continent. And this is how they operate, and this is how they move. So when we speak about it, the idea that Belgium they will give, they might, and you're right, Kim, they might give. They did behind the scenes. I'm sure there was conversations and some understanding of how not only the ceremony is going to take place, but how folks are going to proceed going forth, and whether or not we agree with those or not. I'm sure those things took place in some way or another. And the question is, whether or not the family got personal compensation or will get is one question, but the larger issue is always going to be what's happening on the ground in the Congo to overturn the conditions in which these the Belgians, again, the US, the whole European colonial system and neo-colonial system continue to perpetrate in terms of stealing those resources from those people.
I think that one thing that we forget, because I was just thinking about, I saw the comment Ricky made about the move children, the parallels. The one thing that I feel like we've become immune to is the fact that these people, they are obsessed with our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about even in in the quote unquote museums. They will have these are human bodies, human remains, mainly from the continent of Africa,
Mm-hmm.
that are not buried. They're in museums. They're traveling around. That you have to pay to go see these people who actually lived for real, and no one has a problem with it. We talk about desecration. I mean, how much more desecration can you get than folks actually, your enemies viewing your bodies literally for centuries? I mean, that's some insane shit. You know what I'm saying? So his tooth, what they were hoping for, what they were hoping for was that his family members would die off by now,
Mm.
and no one would make those demands, and that tooth would be in a museum somewhere in Belgium for folks to pay to see. This is the gold tooth of Patrice Lumumba, and that I would not doubt. I would not doubt if they don't bury it somewhere where these devils don't know where it's at. 100 years from now, that will be the case. You know what I'm saying? They're going, and no one's going to have a problem with it because of the fact that, as King said, Martin Luther King said, the people had a 7-day memory, 8-day memory, excuse me. Right now, it's less than that, because whatever the flavor of the day is, whatever the flavor of the month is, if Will Smith come along and slap somebody, then, you know, the news is, you know, it switches, it changes. But everybody should be talking about the fact that the remain of Patrice Lumumba has been given back after 61 years. Imagine if that was a quote unquote Jewish leader
Or an American president.
You
right?
right.
Can we go dig up George Washington for archaeological purposes?
Yeah,
I was watching
hold his wooden ass teeth. But yeah,
right. No, the shit. I mean, it just how normalized and casual it is for grave desecration as part of a American culture. I was watching a show on television, and it had revealed, this is not new news, by the way, but the sarcophagus of the Egyptian pharaoh Ramses was actually discovered in Niagara Falls, Canada, centuries, or at least 150 years after it had been stolen from Egypt. But the ways in which this story was just very casually categorized, and how all these Egyptian tombs have been excavated. I mean, I'm like, excavated. So basically you just went into a mausoleum and just stole people's graves in their coffins and stole their body parts and put them on traveling display around the world. I mean, it's so macabre and dark. And it's amazing to me how this is just normalized in American culture and in Euro culture as Egyptology or archaeology. Like, of course we go and dig up people's graves for historical purposes. I'm like, okay, well, let's run down Arlington Cemetery then and start digging up Jefferson. Let's go down to Monticello and start digging up some of these US presidents if it's for the fucking science of the shit. Like, they don't understand, or rather they intentionally misunderstand or don't fucking care about the desecration of Black and brown bodies. And I'm thinking of our indigenous brothers and sisters here too. Which one of those secret societies is it? It's Skull and Crossbones, but it is a prominent indigenous leader. I don't know if it's Sitting Bull or is it Tecumseh, that they dug up, and they believe they're this tribe, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting which specific indigenous leader it was, but his family knows that his remains are up at Yale. Okay, they are up there at Yale in the Skull and Crossbones building, and they refuse to turn it over. So there is something specifically sick about Europeans that they want to hold on to these bodies of our leaders and our ancestors for whatever macabre white juju reasons they may have.
Conquered. I feel like it's the element of we've conquered, we've taken, we've stolen, and we're not giving it back. And you know, a lot of these places, a lot of these folks or peoples are demanding some of these quote unquote artifacts or things from their culture back. And a lot of these private museums, public entities are actually turning down or saying no. So in other words, we stole this rightfully, or you can't give us some, like, you know, Western law, some claim of or of ownership. And so this is about, in my mind, this is about conquer. This is about them displaying what they've conquered, again, fitting within that larger narrative of white supremacy, that all other cultures, peoples are somehow below them, and for their amusement and enjoyment, as well as for them to take what they want to make their lives better, greater, make them feel intellectually more superior. So I always feel like this is a symptom or a diagnosis of the pathology of Western white supremacy and capitalism around the idea of conquering and banishing and taking and controlling again, because that's what it is that these folks like to do to control their again, the people, resources, and institutions of the world.
As we sit on stolen land, reminiscing about the rape, murder, pillaging, genocide of a people who we don't trust and should never trust, and who comes along and says, you know what, we're going to give you the opportunity to vote for which master you want to lead you astray. You know what I'm saying? We're going to give you the opportunity to make you feel like an exaggerated American. You're going to actually believe that you're going to go somewhere. Your forefathers didn't get to have the right to vote. You know what I'm saying? Your mothers didn't have the right to just say no. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to come on and we're going to give you this right, and we'll take it back however we want to. Thank you for joining us on the Remix Morning Show. Check us out tomorrow from 8 a.m. EST to 10 a.m. EST. Follow us, subscribe, do what you need to do.
Real quick, shout out to the remixes, y'all. You got us up to $2.99 in the chat. So that means that the Ear Doctor owes us a little something. He gonna have to make a shake out here tomorrow, Ear Doctor, on the ones and twos for the people them. So thank you so much, remixers, for your chat support today, for showing up. Thank you guys, and hit the like and the thumbs up on the video before you get exit out of here, please, and thank you.
No doubt. Y'all be safe out there. Remix Morning Show. Do it like you love it. You know what I'm saying? And think nothing of it. I like that. Huh? I got a little bit of skills. Anyway, we'll catch y'all tomorrow. That's just me trying to figure out how the hell we're going to end this thing.
Just hit the button, man. Just hit the button.
Like that. Just like that. Just like that.